Hey everyone, I'm Lavanya Aneja and you're listening to the Boss Brown Women channel. Today we're taking a break from regularly scheduled programming to try a different style of video. So with this video, I'm launching a series titled Taboo Topics to discuss all things that elicit an instant gasp and shame response. I'm talking periods, body shaming, birth control. Yeah. So this is my attempt to normalize a healthy conversation around issues we all experience in our lives, but are somehow too scared to talk about. So let's share our weird experiences, so the next time our body does something strange, we don't automatically assume that we're gonna die. Yeah. Birth control. It ranges on a spectrum of how could you even think about teaching kids that, to a half-assed attempt to explain the concept of the birds and the bees to uncomfortable teenagers huddled together in a room. For me, sex ed was basically our introduction to this is menstruation, hope it helps. What's worse is I was 21 years old when I got a proper introduction to birth control and the plethora of options that existed out there. That too only happened when I made an appointment with a gynaecologist through my school, UCLA's medical center. My roommate and I literally walked into that appointment bursting with questions, fascinated at all the options that the doctor detailed. But post that appointment, both my roommate and I were able to make informed choices, guided by a certified professional who supported us. So to allow you all the ability to do the same, I sat down with Dr. Shelly Singh, a gynecologist and obstetrician with over 20 years of experience in the field, to discuss all things birth control, pros and cons of each option, how to find the ideal option for you, and a rapid-fire round full of myth-busting questions. So stay tuned to find out all you need to know about birth control. So let's start with the obvious and the easy one that mostly everyone is familiar with, condoms. Here's Dr. Shelly giving her take on that option.
See, condoms are a barrier method of contraception. We have both male and female which are available, but of course the male condoms are the ones which are very commonly used. The most important thing is that once you use a condom, it has to be used every time. One cannot think that, one time I can do without it, or this is the correct time in my cycle. It's not close to ovulation time. I don't need to use it. It has to be used all the time, and it has to be used properly. Every time it has to be checked that there is no leakage, there is no slippage that has happened. And along with that, it's a very good method of contraception if used properly. And it also gives protection against a lot of sexually transmitted diseases as well. And it's a very good way of preventing infections which are so common and rampant these days. When used properly, it has a very high efficacy. So it's got a very little failure rate if used properly.
The next is a personal favorite that not many women may know about, the IUD, aka the intrauterine device. Spoiler alert, it can be used as more than just a contraceptive.
It's a very good method of contraception. One thing is that there are two kinds which are available, the copper-containing ones and the ones which are the hormone-containing ones. So the copper-containing ones basically have a layer of copper, and it produces some changes inside the lining of the uterus, because of which implantation will not happen. And additionally, we have the progesterone containing one, which is also called the Mirena, which can also be given to girls, especially when there are menstrual problems like heavy menstrual flow. The flip side to that is that it cannot be used on your own. You will need to go to a gynecologist. She will assess you properly to make sure that there are no contraindications to using the IUCD. And following that, it can be inserted. Okay. So insertion can ideally be done post your period, because we're 100% certain post period that you are not pregnant. Secondly, it can be done through any part of your cycle if you're reasonably certain that there is no pregnancy in the cycle. So it's a very good method of contraception. The advantage is that it can be used for 3 to 5 years. So you just put it inside and then you kind of forget about it. The issue is sometimes there can be a few side effects with these IUCDs. With the copper containing ones, there can be a bit of a spotting which can happen initially through 2 to 3 cycles, and a little heavy flow can also happen. And sometimes there are increased chances of an infection or a pelvic inflammatory disease. Recent studies have found that even this kind of infection is not seen over and above what would be the chances of an infection. So it's not causatively been proven that it causes these infections. Occasionally, what can happen is it can just fall out.
Yeah.
That's the reason why when we instruct you, we tell you that you must keep feeling the threads of the IUD. If you're not able to feel those threads of the IUD, you must go and meet up with your doctor just to find out whether it's actually curled inside, whether it's fallen out, or whether it's just gone inside the abdominal cavity. So there are various ways of retrieving that then, and sometimes surgery may also be required to retrieve it. But then this is not a very common scenario.
Fun fact alert! The idea of IUDs may have actually come from camels. Let's sit on that for a bit.
It can also be used as a method of post-coital contraception, which means that sometimes if there is unprotected intercourse which has happened, within 5 days of this unprotected intercourse, one can insert the IUCD and it grants some advantage, or it may prevent an unwanted pregnancy. So that's more or less about the IUCD. So
this next one holds the honor of having the highest number of misconceptions and memes surrounding it. Birth control pills. The horror stories related to these are endless. I'm talking weight gain, acne, change in period flow, loss of libido, and so much more. So here's Dr. Shelly sharing the reality.
So we have the combined oral contraceptive pills and we have the progesterone only pills. Okay. The combined oral contraceptive pills are the ones which contain two hormones, the estrogen as well as the progesterone. The progesterone only pills don't have that estrogenic component at all. Most women across the world are using these combined pills only. Nowadays, we have the low dose option, which is also available, so which takes care of a lot of problems which were earlier there. Okay. Now, before we start off, you will need to go and meet a gynecologist who will take your history. There are some contraindications to the use of oral contraceptive pills. Okay. Sometimes, like if there is a history of migraines, or if there is a depressive tendency, or in case there is a family history of a malignancy, one has to be a little careful. So all these are relative contraindications. You will first need to go to a gynecologist so that she rules out any kind of a problem like that. And following that, of course, if you are a good candidate, which most people are, so one can always start. There are various ways of prescribing it, but if we take the standard format or the ideal situation, within 5 days of your period is the best time to start off the first pack. Okay. And you must have a particular timing when you take that oral pill, and just stick to that timing because it also helps to make it as a habit. 21 days on, 1 week off. We have some which are available even for 24 days and a 4-day off period. There are various ways of prescribing it. Mm-hmm. We have sequential pills which mimic a normal menstrual cycle as well. They're a little difficult to take though. Earlier, we used to say one of the major problems was a weight gain that happened. But now with the current brand of medicines which are available, even the chances of weight gain are less, metabolic problems are less. All those things are definitely less compared to before. Once you stop taking the pill, then of course it takes a little while for fertility to be restored. So if you are planning on a pregnancy, generally it takes around 6 months to even 1 year. It can even be before that. for fertility to be restored. Then we have the progesterone only pills, which can be prescribed to women who are lactating or people who have just given birth. We cannot give them the combined oral pills because it reduces the quality and quantity of milk. Sometimes, there's a very common side effect of a breakthrough bleeding, which can also happen. But generally, that gets restored after about 2 or 3 cycles. So it takes a little while. It's a trial and error method. And combined pills also help you. A lot of girls have polycystic ovarian disease as well these days. Would also benefit there with combined oral contraceptive pills, apart from the benefit of contraception.
That's great.
And as you rightly said, that acne, sometimes rheumatoid arthritis, there are various other benefits of giving the combined oral contraceptive pills as well.
Fun fact, the pill actually wasn't the first method of oral contraception that ever existed. Some ancient women actually used to eat pomegranate seeds as contraceptives. As you can imagine, that didn't really work out that well for them. But the one that takes the cake for me is the ancient Chinese tradition of drinking mercury as a form of contraception. Mercury. Thank God modern medicine has come so far. Well, you might think this marks the end of the list, but not so fast. This one is a relatively newer option that was recently made available to women. The birth control implant, also better known as Nexplanon. Here's Dr. Shelly's thoughts on that.
It's like a rod which contains only the progesterone. It is just inserted in the upper arm. And it's a very easy insertion, but you will need to go to a gynecologist for that. So with, this can just be inserted with a very minor kind of a needle prick, and then it is just inserted beneath the skin. And again, it just keeps on releasing the progesterone. And because of that, you are able to achieve contraception for a period of approximately 3 years or so. It's a very minor kind of thing which is inserted, but sometimes if it goes wrong, it can go too deep. But most times with people like who are experts at doing it, of course it can go to also, of course, it would require a very small incision to remove this rod. Also, anything which has only progesterone can lead to a little bit of irregular spotting. So you can have a little bit of an ORI cycles, but most times about 2-3 cycles down, one is able to actually sort that problem out as well.
1 or 2 more methods to wrap this up. One was, which is not exactly a contraceptive method, but just to cover it, it's just the rhythm method. Like, any thoughts on that?
That is a terrible method. That's a terrible method of contraception, because most times one can go wrong with that. Most of the time, the cycle is not exactly like clockwork. So there are, little changes which can happen at the time of ovulation. And secondly, what happens is that even people use the coitus interruptus as well, which means that ejaculate outside and go by the rhythm method. But that again is not a good method, because what happens is that the ejaculatory secretions can also have some sperms. So courtesy that, and that's the reason why sometimes, even though you're going according to the rhythm method, or you're using this pulling out before ejaculation, that can fail very easily. And that's not a good method of contraception.
Fun fact, birth control actually wasn't legal for everyone up until 1972. So I understand people using the rhythm method up until then. But what's your excuse now? As promised, for our last segment, we're doing some major myth busting with a rapid fire round. Birth control pills just make you gain weight. True or false?
Not necessary. Depends on the kind of pills.
Perfect. So another one was that you should take a break from birth control or contraception of certain types every once in a while.
Not really. It depends. Again, when you wish to either conceive or you wish, to for a little while, probably if you're not going to need contraception, for example, for some time, you can give it a break. Otherwise, they're a very safe method of contraception.
Okay. So another one is that the pill is not safe and can actually cause birth defects.
Not at all. That's not true.
Yeah, to bust that myth. And long-term pill use can affect fertility.
Not really, because see, like I told you, most of the time there is resumption of fertility which happens by about 6 months to 1 year for most people. Anybody who has a problem anyways with fertility may probably find themselves in a kind of a soup following this, and it would happen whether she was taking the pill or she wasn't.
So correlation but not causation.
Yes, absolutely.
And the final one is that hormonal contraceptive increases the risk of cancer.
Some hormonal contraceptives are linked with some kinds of cancers, but most of the times, of course, we do an evaluation of the risks beforehand. So that, like I just spoke to you about the fact that if there is a family history of cancer, if one is suffering from cancer, if there is some kind of a vaginal bleeding, history of breast cancer, ovarian cancer, then obviously there one would, sometimes there are chances that it does increase the same risk. But then, of course, we would already have done a good evaluation before putting you on that form of contraception.
It's just not true across the board, but of course varies by
No. Yes.
Perfect. So these were some common myths that people actually do hold to be true, and I'm so glad that you were able to help me bust those myths. So I'm so thankful that you came onto this platform and helping me educate young girls so they can make informed choices about their bodies and their lives.
You're most welcome.
Thank you. That's the end of our myth-busting round. At this point in the video, a lot of you may be pondering this question, but who is the winner? Well, unfortunately, there is no one clear winner. As Dr. Shelly so brilliantly explained in her answers, it all depends on case-by-case basis. So do yourself a favor and go see a gynecologist to find the best option for you. I hope this video was helpful in shedding light on a topic that's so often shrouded in the dark. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more such content in the Taboo topic series, leave a thumbs up down below, hit that subscribe button, and tell us what topics you'd like us to cover in this series in the comments. For more such entertaining and educating content, check out our Instagram page or listen to the podcast channel on your preferred provider. Well, that's it for now. See you guys again next time.